AI music might even be something larger than music itself, because it will thoroughly democratize content patterns that humans have created and needed for thousands of years. This pattern music is something very unique. It's essentially an extension of human emotions. But today, music production is not a democratized thing. Everyone has emotions. Each person's emotions are different, but not everyone has the ability to express themselves through music. Today, with AI Remix, you can take any celebrity song and feed it into a model, then remix it into your own style while preserving the essence of the original song. This means your way of consuming music has changed, and creation might also become a form of consumption, because you can very easily customize the content and creation of the music you want. There's no verifiable reward, no God that tells you this song is definitely good, that song is definitely bad, because even in different people's ears, the definition of good and bad is different. So the content creation model might become less centralized and more diverse.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Alphaist podcast. I'm Peter Chen from Alphaist. Alphaist is a newly established fund focused on the hard tech. Our mission is to empower alpha entrepreneurs and drive human progress. The Alphaist is a deep conversation show. We focus on the first principles of technology and entrepreneurship, focusing on early founders, engineers, and product explorers who are changing the world. Over the past year, AI music might be one of the most popular applications in the generative AI field. Suno just completed a $250 million funding last year with an annualized revenue exceeding $200 million, attracting millions of users and greatly changing music creation habits. The ace we're focusing on today is an emerging star in this AI music wave, achieving tens of millions in ARR in less than a year. And with such outstanding results, the founder has even greater ambitions and visions. This February, they just launched Ace Music. So today, the Alphaist invited him to share his vision of the future of AI music with us. Welcome, Ace founder Joe.
Hello everyone, I'm Joe. I'm the founder and CEO of Ace. Ace is the world's first open ecosystem AI music platform. We started from the professional end with a product called Ace Studio. Then in February, we launched Ace Music, which is more consumer-oriented, similar to Suno. Together, they form a unified interface and unified interaction method. We integrate various AI music-related models and place them in a unified workflow to empower AI music platforms for everyone from ordinary people to professional musicians, even Grammy-winning musicians.
Thank you, Joe, for that brief introduction. My understanding is that Ace entered the music market from the professional side, first launching Ace Studio. Could you introduce Ace Studio?
The history of Ace Studio is actually quite interesting. We started launching it around late 2023 to early 2024. At first, Ace Studio only solved one problem: the high cost of finding vocals for professional music creators. For example, if you want to write a song, you need a children's choir. Imagine having to gather 20 singing children, teach them your song, and bring them somewhere to record. This is extremely expensive in terms of time, effort, and money costs. But today in Ace Studio, you can input your notes and prompts to generate children's choir vocals that are at human level or even higher. This was the first problem Ace Studio solved. In early December 2025, we released Ace Studio 2.0, which made a major systematic upgrade. Besides vocal synthesis, it includes highly realistic instrument generation, some end-to-end music generation, and generative music editing capabilities. Basically, it integrated all AI music-related capabilities into a very simple and elegant interface. We also observed our professional users, like major producers in Hollywood and composers in the film industry. When they use Ace Studio, they've indeed created some workflows we hadn't seen before. These workflows help them turn ideas into release-ready works much faster, maybe 10 times, even 100 times faster than before. This is what Ace Studio 2.0 is doing today.
For listeners unfamiliar with Ace Studio, what's the biggest difference between Ace Studio and products like Suno?
Actually, if you pay attention to AI, you might wonder about the difference between Cursor and Lovable, right? Lovable is more about one-click generation of whatever project you want, while Cursor is more like an environment, an IDE with human in the loop. But this IDE is powered by AI. Today's Ace Studio is more like Cursor, a musician's IDE that completely recreates workflows and reshapes the creative environment based on new AI capabilities. Suno is more like a one-click model as a product solution where users input a prompt and generate a song in one go. The advantage is low barrier to entry, but the problem is it's hard to edit. But actually what we observe today is that in AI music, everyone's final strategy and product form are actually converging in the same direction. For example, Suno also launched its professional end product this year called Suno Studio. Ace launched Ace Music in February, which is exactly the opposite of Suno. We started from the professional end, then used our better understanding of music creation workflows to build better models with better expert feedback then empowered our consumer end. This allows us to build better models, and our models are also lighter and faster than Suno's, capable of local deployment. For example, on a 3090 GPU, it might only take a few seconds to generate a complete song. Today, all AI music models in the world, open source or closed source, can match our speed, or if they have the same speed, they don't have our quality.
So in the professional market, my understanding is that before Ace Studio launched, you really didn't have many competitors in this market.
Yes, exactly. Using AI to reshape professional music creation workflows, this was essentially pioneered by us, and currently we're quite leading in this area.
What are the biggest barriers or challenges here?
We found something quite interesting. If you're making a C-end product, imagine if TikTok removed all its features. No local life, no adding friends, not even likes or comments. Just the single up-down swipe and recommendation algorithm based on completion rate. Would TikTok still work? I think if we do this thought experiment and remove all these things, TikTok might still not see a drop in DAU in the short term, because for CN products, the main use case basically takes up over 90% of users' attention or value. But professional products are the exact opposite. Professional products need to cover as many corner cases as possible, but somehow integrates them into an elegant workflow. This actually requires you to have a very deep understanding of how professionals work. For example, we have a huge difference with Suno Studio. Suno Studio is a web-based product because it started from consumers, so naturally they think since it's a web app, the producer end should also be integrated in the web app. But if it's a web-based product, there are many needs that professional users can't meet. For example, how to integrate with traditional music creation tools. There's something called plugins. They need to connect to the creator's existing toolset. This is hard to implement with web-based solutions. Our Ace Studio, while being an independent IDE, also has plugins that can bridge to these traditional music creators' workstations, making it easy for music creators to seamlessly integrate us into their workflow. But when they use Suno, it's more like a back-and-forth experience. This is a big difference between us and Suno Studio. There are also differences in model capabilities. Suno's models tend to be all end-to-end generative models. We also have a set of end-to-end generative models with capabilities on par with Suno. But at the same time, we have many expert models. These expert models, for example, can input notes and output high-quality vocals, input notes and output high-quality instruments. This note language is actually the language that professional users often speak. The biggest need for professional users is to precisely express their ideas, which is not just about quality. Today, we can see that AI-generated music in quality already has no difference from what professionals make for ordinary people. But why is it that today Suno or all AI-generated music haven't created a superstar, a creator-centered IP on the internet? This is because AI is a relatively black box random event. Even if a creator makes a good song, it's very hard for them to maintain their unique personality and style. If you use a purely end-to-end AI approach, this is why tools like Ace Studio or Suno Studio, which are more professional but also AI-powered, have value. It's not just about helping you create higher quality works, but more importantly, helping you controllably create works with your own personality, consistency, and uniqueness. In the future, uniqueness will be very important because anyone can generate a super high-quality work with one sentence. User attention is still limited. Who will they listen to? Who will they follow? Who will they be loyal to and pay for? This uniqueness will become increasingly important.
I just noticed you made an analogy between Ace Studio and Cursor. Cursor as a programmer's IDE, a development environment, is actually a human-in-the-loop creative approach where AI greatly improves programmers' efficiency and the ability to write code. But programmers themselves have complete control over the code. They can fine-tune any logic or program. As a professional-grade tool, Ace Studio essentially has complete control and creation capabilities over music's basic units, notes. This is also a human-in-the-loop creative method. Is my understanding and analogy correct?
Yes, absolutely. Notes to code are indeed the underlying logic of music and the underlying logic of the technical world. Actually, I think that in the future, the granularity of music creation, even within professional tools, will gradually increase. Why do we believe human-in-the-loop will continue to have value? Because content has no standard answers, no verifiable rewards. What do you like? What do I like? What does he like? This is very hard to determine by setting a goal like help me create the best song. How do you define best? This is actually very difficult. For example, when rock music first appeared, when it was invented, what kind of AI could help invent such a great epoch-making music genre as rock? Actually, no AI could do this, because before a genre is invented, there's no such type in the training data, so the AI cannot learn it. Then when a genre is just invented, users' evaluations of it are mixed. with huge controversy, so reinforcement learning cannot reward truly revolutionary, epoch-making inventions in their early stages. The end-to-end AI approach makes it easy for people to get involved in content creation, but it's hard to help people truly explore some revolutionary, human-changing content forms. So we believe that in the long run, end-to-end and human-in-the-loop will be combined. End-to-end can quickly get people into the creative flow. Then when everyone can quickly master a type of creation in seconds and everyone's quality is similar, then human nature is to compete. They always compete with each other. So what's the dimension of competition? It becomes who can more controllably create the precise ideas and feelings they want to express, rather than just competing on who has higher quality.
So more unique and creative content is always rewarded and spread.
Yes, for example, taking the camera as an analogy. Before cameras appeared, a painter's greatest value was how to paint people more realistically. But after cameras appeared, people started to think, even if I paint portraits realistically, I can't match what a camera captures. So what is painting? What is art? Modernism and abstract art began to emerge. There are many such examples.
I see you're thinking about the professional market, or this professional grade market is very clear. I'm curious, Studio 2.0 has been out for exactly 3 months now. How are users using and embracing your new generation of products?
What we've observed is that as we've opened up more diverse and higher quality model capabilities in Studio 2.0, it's created an emergent feeling. Each capability is like an atom, and users arranging these atoms create many workflows that even we didn't expect. For example, some people will hum an idea to get a rough concept, then use our vocal to MIDI model to turn the humming into a score, then turn that score into violin sounds through our AI instruments, then use our music enhancer capability to directly generate a production-level complete song from a musical idea. Through this method, they've created Hollywood epic string pieces for film scoring. The entire workflow is completed within a studio. To accomplish such things. Today, no single AI tool can do this. You might need to combine several AI products, jumping between different websites, and then do various combinations and packaging in your traditional workstation. So these interesting arrangements of capabilities creating new creative needs and methods are what we found quite surprising. And among these, there are no shortage of Hollywood music producers, Grammy winners, top-tier professionals in the industry who are also using these workflows.
So I understand that 2.0 isn't just about improving the effects, clarity, and realism of your models. It's about providing users with more high-quality atomic elements, giving them more space for creation and combination.
Yes, we believe that in the short term, the competitive factor is model capability. You can see this phenomenon in images and video, but in the long term, the competitive factor is how the product side utilizes these capabilities.
Could you elaborate on the model capabilities? Are your models difficult to train? If other big model companies have the ability to replicate or surpass your current model capabilities?
First, we have more than one model. In the workflow I mentioned earlier, there's a melody recognition model, an instrument synthesis model, and an end-to-end music generation model based on audio prompts. We also have models similar to Suno that generate music directly from input prompts, plus a stem separation model for separating audio tracks, and another model for complementing music, like continuing a song, or adding a track, adding a bass, or adding an instrument. We call this sample generation or stem generation. Theoretically, in a product company, we shouldn't train our own models. But in the music field, there are actually very few third-party or open-source models, which forces us to become a product company that trains our own models and owns model barriers. This is one of our unique characteristics. As for these models, how each model's capabilities are defined actually depends on our understanding of user workflows. You can't say one model can conquer everything. In this regard, if a big company wants to do this, they need to immerse themselves in the music industry, constantly understand and think about user needs, and build proprietary models one by one. These proprietary models may require proprietary data and proprietary annotations, which is extremely time-consuming. Today, we really see no clear path that big models will internally develop music creation capabilities. They still need to call external music creation models. So in this regard, I don't believe big companies will grow to eat our products.
From the perspective of training your series of proprietary models, what kind of data do you need? What scale is this data at? And how do you obtain it?
This actually varies greatly. For example, our vocal models data is professionally recorded, studio quality data collected in recording studios, then annotated by professional musicians. The scale of this data might be around 10,000 hours, recorded in studio environments because when professional creators use the vocal model, it needs to generate a dry vocal because effects need to be added later. You can't generate a finished vocal with too many effects or reverbs directly. Our music generation model is an end-to-end music generation model, which might use millions of hours or more of complete music data. Obviously, we can't record or purchase this data manually. What we do is we get some music licenses through copyright companies, then build an internal synthetic data generation pipeline, using what we bought or some that were actually donated to us in our previous open source efforts. Of course, we signed strict authorization contracts for all of these. Then through a synthetic data pipeline, we generate various types of songs in large combinations, finally reaching a dataset of 20-30 million songs. Basically 112 million hours of data to train this music model. So different models use different data inputs, and the methods and scales of data collection and cleaning are vastly different.
Behind this, the professional know-how becomes a deep barrier for the company, and it's hard for general companies to replicate.
Yes, exactly. Take a simple example. What are the annotations for our music generation model? They're prompts and lyrics, right? The prompts describe the music, like jazz, rock, or whatever. The lyrics not only include what's sung, but also descriptions of each section. For example, this section should have a bit of retro lo-fi texture, a jazz triad, or a 3-beat rhythm, and what kind of synth pad to create the underlying atmosphere. Today, these annotation pipelines are clearly not written by humans, because humans can annotate 20 million songs with such detail. We obviously use some audio LLMs to help us with pre-annotation. Then we need humans to clean this data, refine some more precise data annotations, and then do reinforcement learning on this audio LLM to make it more precise. So here's the question. If I play you a piece of music, say kick clap, and I have a description in brackets saying this is a typical drama-based style rhythm, right? Can ordinary people know if this annotation is correct or incorrect? Examples like this exist in every stage of our work. And if a team without music brain does this, it's like a blind person doing an image generation model. Hard to evaluate.
Since launching the 2.0 product, you've also made significant progress in revenue. Are there any changes or expansions in your user base and user profiles?
First, Ace Music is for consumers. Ace Studio is for professionals. These are different ends, and that premise is correct. But even for professional Ace Studio, we found that as we've introduced more end-to-end music generation models, the definition of professional is actually becoming more diffuse. What we previously considered professional was a music producer, people who can start production software, have a lot of hardcore-looking equipment, and make music in various software. But actually, there's a huge gap between music producers and people who understand music. For example, take elementary school music teachers. There are tens of millions of piano students in China who learn piano, singing, can play guitar, have some feel for music, and play in bands in their spare time. All these people we understand are today's new professionals, but they're not all music producers. Today on Ace Studio 2.0, we see many of these music-related people who understand some music. Like they can play piano, they consider themselves new professionals and a new generation of music producers, and have started seriously creating music on it. For example, there's a user from Malaysia who said the songs he made with Ace Studio are already cooperating with what seems to be Andy Lau's movies. But that person wasn't a music producer before, nor did he know how to use traditional music production software and plugins. But he's someone who can play piano, has loved singing since childhood, has good musical taste, and he used Ace Studio to do very professional things. So we observe a very interesting phenomenon. Even the definition of professional is changing with AI's empowerment. When you have lower barriers and more powerful capabilities, who is a professional? Which people are professionals? This definition itself is changing.
Following Studio's current growth trend, I see your prediction is that you might achieve $30 million in revenue this year. If this trend continues, what do you think the ceiling is for the professional or quasi-professional market that Studio focuses on?
First, I can analyze this from several dimensions. The first dimension is the bottom line. What's the baseline? I've seen a statistic before. In 2024, the total software and hardware sales for the professional music market added up to 15 billion. If we're just talking about software, it's nearly 8 billion.
8 billion includes things like DAW workstation software and various effect plugins.
Yes, various effects, different sound sources, various plugins. What do they all do together? They do one thing, allowing a creator to finally produce that 3-minute 45-second MP3 audio, right? In this process, why use such a complex toolkit? Let me give you an interesting example. If you use a traditional digital audio workstation today, just setting up this environment for an ordinary novice might take a week. Is this really reasonable? Why should users have to struggle with such a big setup? This is why we believe the professional market will definitely change. But all these things together, software and hardware, they can sell $14 billion a year. So can Ace Studio capture at least 10-20% of this market in the future? This is the baseline ceiling we see for the professional market.
What's the gross margin situation for your studio products now? What percentage of our costs go to marketing and inference?
First, our inference costs are very low because our models are self-built and we have a good inference optimization framework. So for every 100 yuan we earn, we probably spend about 5-6 yuan on inference. On marketing, we might spend about 20 yuan on this because we need to continuously find users to onboard them to the tool, which is also a continuous user education process.
How do you price for users?
Our current annual fee is $200, with another tier at $264. On Ace Studio, we don't sell monthly subscriptions for now. We also sell another subscription with a longer cycle, 2-year subscriptions, because we observe that users in this field are more inclined to buy products with longer cycles.
So it sounds like Ace Studio has very good margins and high revenue growth. This year, you might reach a revenue level of tens of millions of dollars, which is already a dream state for many startups. We just talked about Ace Studio 2.0. This month, the company launched a brand new Ace Music, focusing on lower barriers and end-to-end music production scenarios, targeting broader music enthusiasts. Before we talk with Joe about this product, let's first listen to some content produced by Ace Music.
The sun melts over the endless plain of mirage, dances like a golden chain. Bare feet, tree stories in the crack. This is in our blood. We were made for this. No time for giving up. We were made for this. It's just in our blood, and we ain't never, ever quit.
Balls in the pad, tryna cook a beat, but the beat could be bad. Hit the space bar, hook ops, deleted the track. Tail hit the mouse, now the screen go black.
Too high, can't come down. Losing my head, spinning round and round. Do you feel me now?
Congratulations on launching Ace Music. How would you evaluate these few pieces of content produced?
I feel that today Ace Music is still in a relatively early stage. We can only say that our models are very close to the capabilities of all current mainstream leading AI music models. A bigger value is that it can be very fast and users can do local training. What we actually look forward to more is on top of this model, where every user can build personalized models like LoRa or fine-tuned models, injecting their personality, aesthetics, or their own data into this ecosystem to produce all kinds of strange and wonderful music. I actually already see this future. It's very concrete right in front of my eyes. But today, when everyone hears about it, it's still leaning towards a mainstream form. Great musicality, great structure, great vocals. But in the long run, I think these including ours, including Suno's current models, are actually just at the beginning stage for the long-term AI music ecosystem.
So I'm curious, why would we enter a new market and launch a product like Ace Music?
Actually, my first feeling is that I don't think it's a new market. I think these two markets will merge. Today, when we look at this so-called consumer versus producer, we still habitually divide them this way, right? But you see, AI brings a huge change. Everyone can become professionals, and everyone can also create this kind of content form. What's obvious is that these two things are actually just differences in user participation depth. Users will gradually participate more deeply, going from shallow to deep. I think today in the AI music direction itself, it's already very clear that in the future, it's definitely going to be a huge thing. And an important component of this huge thing is having lighter creation methods and also more professional, more controllable creation methods. The two form a very organic combination, both built on top of this set of model capabilities and using a unified user interface to integrate these model capabilities to create emergence. Since this direction is so clear, we should just go all in on this direction today rather than doing too much, say, strategic differentiation, only doing professional or only doing consumer. I think these are all avoiding the problem. Essentially, if the ultimate form of AI music is professional plus consumer plus a community, then we should push in this direction.
Just now, you mentioned that AI is breaking down the barrier between professional and non-professional users in many fields. When it comes to AI music, are there any examples or stories you can share with everyone?
Domestically, there's a very famous top-tier music education institution that also uses us for teaching. They said before there was a student, that person was a music teacher in a third-tier city who opened a training class, probably 2 months' time, then had kids learn to write prompts and generate songs, and that was it. Then the result was very magical. These middle and high school kids he taught created very interesting songs during these 2 months. Then something shocking happened. He took some of the better works and represented them to a copyright company and put them on streaming platforms. One of those songs was #1 for several consecutive weeks on Tencent Music, and the final copyright revenue share from that song was close to 5 million RMB. You can imagine the level of shock. A high school kid says to their mom, "Sign me up for a hobby class, 399 RMB. Then after studying for 2 months, takes home 5 million RMB. This signal is already very strong. Some people are still doubting whether AI has soul, but another group of underdogs are already making huge money systematically with AI-generated music. This signal shows us that, okay, AI music might even be something larger than music itself because it will thoroughly democratize content patterns that humans have created and needed for thousands of years. This pattern music is something very unique. It's essentially an extension of human emotions, but expressing emotions is a very personalized thing. But today, music production is not a democratized thing. Everyone has emotions. Each person's emotions are different, but not everyone has the ability to express themselves through music. So what's the mainstream phenomenon we see today? I echo on other people's music. I use other people's songs as a substitute for expressing my own emotions. If there's a better way, if you could really let yourself use your own music to express your own emotions, wouldn't that be a 10 times better thing, a bigger market?
Is your description of this paradigm shift a recent realization, or had you thought about this before? Why did we launch Ace Music today rather than 2 or 3 years ago?
Actually, we were following Suno very closely right when it first came out, including their first model, which was doing TTS, then quickly shifted to doing music. We thought about following up at that time too, but honestly, it was because we made a major strategic mistake. We chose not to follow up immediately at that time. This major strategic mistake came from us being pulled in many other directions at the time. For example, around 2022, we saw Suno, but at that time we were in China, and the startup themes were maybe metaverse, other things, and people were still skeptical about whether AI could truly generate valuable music. From a technical perspective, we saw that Suno's results were already very good at that time. We made a misjudgment. We thought even if we got to Suno's level, it still wouldn't explode. In 2023, 2022, maybe the demand didn't exist. But today I realize that's not actually it. It's not that the demand didn't exist, but rather it hadn't reached a critical point. User adoption hadn't fully shifted over. The second point is we also made errors in our technical judgment. We did a calculation and overestimated Suno's training costs a lot. Later, after we improved our technical vision significantly, we realized how stupid a mistake we made back then was. So at that time, we thought maybe it was something our resources and compute couldn't afford. But today we find that's completely not the case.
So 3 years ago, when we entered this market, we chose to cut in from the professional studio market first. Today, we officially entered the more consumer-facing music market. I'm curious, has the work on the studio product over the past 2 or 3 years directly helped with launching music today?
Because we started from professional users in their creation process gave us a lot of feedback and insights on models and music quality. For example, we look at Midjourney during their massive reinforcement learning process. They had a pool of 300 top artist users, and they only used feedback from these top artists for reinforcement learning. That's how they could build the best aesthetic image community in the world. The same logic applies to Ace Studio, because our entry point was providing tools to the top musicians. Feedback from these people, whether on the model or feature suggestions, can actually help us build a better AI music platform.
I just heard your judgment. You think AI music is not just an efficiency tool upgrade, that AI music itself might even be larger than music, a complete paradigm shift, an industry revolution. So let's chat about how big do you think the AI music market actually is? How do you define your target?
Right, first, a simple answer is that today this thing can't be calculated very clearly. We can only have some qualitative judgments. Let me give an example everyone can understand. When AI video appeared, everyone's imagination was that in the future, everyone could make their own movies, and everyone would watch their own movies, watch the development of stories acted out by themselves, endings that are different for everyone. We all know if everyone can create their own movies, this market is far larger than the film industry itself, right? But the problem is how far is today's AI video from movies that regular people can actually consume, because movies have too many elements like shot rhythm, how to perform, how to design the plot. It's not just about having good looking shots. But you'll find that today AI music seems to be the closest to AI generated content that can be directly consumed by end users. Look at today's AI music. It's actually not that there's no such supply, but rather that the consumption side platforms are suppressing this supply because it conflicts with traditional vested interests, right? Like Tencent Music, Spotify. If you upload AI music today, at least they discriminate against you. They'll tag it as AI generated. They'll separate it from human works. This is the consumption side creating an artificial division to protect their existing vested interests. But today you'll find this momentum can be stopped. AI generated works already exceed human results. People like these works. Hit songs can be mass produced, generating over 100 million plays.
Actually, from the end consumer's perspective, people don't care whether it's AI generated or end-to-end generated.
Consumers always don't care, right? If an ordinary person today listens to a playlist on an AI music platform, it's hard to distinguish whether it's AI or human. So this is a variable everyone overlooks. You can think about how scary this is. AI-generated content can already be directly consumed by end users. Which field today is close to this point?
Speaking of existing audio distribution platforms like NetEase or Tencent, including products like Spotify, as the consumability of AI music increases, will it bring changes to distribution channels, or will the core value or core barriers of traditional music distribution be overturned and rewritten due to the popularization of AI music?
I think it definitely will. First, the business model of music streaming platforms is huge, and costs come from copyright. This copyright is actually an existing stock market. Human mindshare is only so much. If you occupy human mindshare, you can continuously generate revenue. For example, Jay Chou occupies your mindshare, so you'll always listen to Jay Chou. Whatever he does, you'll pay for it. You'll give him attention. But this also means this industry's iteration and update is relatively slow. Old IPs become more valuable over time. Innovation is relatively harder, and ordinary people's participation in music is less. You can only be a listener passively consuming. But AI can completely break this. For example, it can let old IPs be reinterpreted. Today with AI Remix, you can take any celebrity song, put it into a model, then remix it into a style you like, while preserving the song's essence. This means your way of consuming music has changed, and creation might also become a form of consumption, because you can very easily customize the music content you want. For traditional streaming platforms, do they need to redefine how humans interact with music? Do they need to reshape their product form or business model for this? If they reshape it, will they offend all the copyright holders they already have? This is why old business models find it hard to transition to new ways. It's not that they technically can't do certain things, but rather the business model and ecosystem they built that made them so successful will definitely need massive reconstruction under the new paradigm.
So you just mentioned that both AI music creation and consumption forms might change. Would you personally get involved in the content distribution link?
Definitely. Ace Music is actually a creation and consumption community from day one, and it will gradually integrate with Ace Studio, letting more professional works created in Ace Studio also be uploaded to Ace Music's community. We think future AI music creation and consumption are integrated. They should be built together from day one.
If following this vision, this market truly opens up, what do you think the end game will look like? Can I imagine you as a product like Adobe in music or Canva in design? Or do you imagine you as a completely new content interaction platform, maybe a TikTok of the next generation?
I think it's definitely not just Adobe, not just a tool. It must be a platform that integrates tool and consumption. This platform's fundamental characteristic is that it reinvents music itself, letting music enter every aspect of people's lives more smoothly, more seamlessly. Whether you're listening to songs, background music in videos you watch, or ambient music in physical environments. In the future, I think even over 95% will involve AI-generated content. How big exactly this is, no one can calculate precisely, but I can give a few analogies. Before short video appeared, short video actually reconstructed video content itself. Before short video appeared, what was video? Video was TV programs, movies. It required very top-tier centralized production, centralized distribution, centralized consumption. Short video completely fragmented both content creation and distribution, creating a completely different, many times higher human engagement, human participation. For example, today a person might spend an average of 2 hours on Douyin, and 2 hours of consumption as a whole is a sequence of short videos each 15 seconds to 1 minute. That's the completely new content form reconstructed by short video. So with AI's empowerment, might the content form consumed in the music industry also change? For example, it might no longer be a playlist, but maybe your AI model, your customized model, combined with things you like, generates in real time a soundtrack that fits your mood today. I think this at least will completely overturn music itself. As entrepreneurs, we look for which thing might produce huge changes. Huge changes definitely have huge opportunities. This is one reference. Another reference is when we saw Suno raise funding, they mentioned that Suno is building AI music infrastructure worth over $500 billion. This statement can actually serve as a basic pricing reference for the industry's TAM. Today's highest market cap streaming platform is Spotify. Its market cap is about $100 billion. So at least the basic future Suno claims is 5 times Spotify. And I believe this market is actually larger.
Speaking of Suno, as a market-leading AI music platform, they've also developed very competitive, expressive music models. I want to understand, as a latecomer to the market, how do we compare with Suno? How do we find a path to surpass them?
We observe that many Suno-like products actually struggle to carve out a really good path. For example, Suno has the world's best model. Your model is close to it, but a bit worse. This is actually hard to let you build very good growth. Because for users, they're spending the same money. Why use something worse when there's something better? So I thought for a long time about how to cut in. I thought of two things, one short-term, one long-term. The short-term answer is open source and free. Suno today is cloud-hosted, doesn't even have third-party API. It's clearly going the closed ecosystem route. We open source our music model. If you tell all users today we have a product similar to Suno, our model is a bit worse than his and we're cheaper than him, would users be interested? Actually, it's hard. But if you tell them today we have a model similar to Suno, but it's completely free, and you can download it to your own computer and run it locally and train. You can use your own music to train this model into the style and aesthetic you want. We tested this, it's a huge selling point. So we made our model extremely fast, able to run our music model on a fairly ordinary computer. Let me give you a reference. For example, on a single 3090 GPU, our model can generate a complete piece of music in 11 seconds, and on an A100, 2 seconds to generate a complete piece of music. This is our unique advantage today, meaning on-device execution and on-device training become possible. This is our means to compete with Suno in the short term and tear open a gap.
So AI music can completely achieve local real-time rendering and computation.
Right, it's completely possible. Can even do local offline performances. These are all possibilities our model has. But in the long run, I think open source is just a means. In the long run, what might actually let us win strategically is not open source, but open ecosystem. This is why I say ACE is the world's first open ecosystem AI music platform. Open ecosystem means we should spare no effort to make good use of all existing music-related models in the world. Our own open source models, other open source models, even closed source but stably API-provided music models. For example, we've heard OpenAI is also doing an AI music model. We know 11 Labs has done an AI music model. Maybe Alibaba's Qwen is also doing an AI music model. Minimax's music model, 2.0's music model also have very good results. So we can imagine something like this. First, Suno has been going the closed ecosystem route. And today their settlement with copyright companies forces them to go closed ecosystem. So-called closed ecosystem means their platform only allows their model to exist, only allows generating music with their model. But look at any field, even fields as resource concentrated as large language models. Today there's actually a trend of blooming. Open source and closed source are very close. Different vendors' models each have their strengths. Everyone provides stable APIs. Building agent products on top of this can receive systemic empowerment because you can use different models in different scenarios. What we want to do is exactly the same. We believe all music models combined can definitely beat Suno. Besides continuously advancing our own models' capabilities, what we should also do is constantly build better interaction methods, more intelligent interaction methods, letting the AI route through these good models to generate better content emergence. Each model has its strengths. A single model can hardly do this.
So you mentioned Ace Music plans to use an open source and free model approach. How does this product make money? Will there be different business models?
I researched quite a bit on open source, and I found an interesting phenomenon, a company called Flux. Flux today has built a very good business model on open source in the image field. Their model is this. First, I open source a small model. Then at the same time, I also half open source a medium model. This medium model has better effects, is also open source, but requires a license for commercial use. Then I make a closed source large model that can provide API. Because the small model is open source, a lot of creators and developers will spread it for you. Then in various application scenarios, use this small model to build massive user habits because it's free. And when user habit and the model's name awareness are built up, the users who truly help you commercialize, who have paying ability, they don't mind spending more money to use a better version, a closed source version. This is the value of Ace Music existing. On Ace Music, directly using our current version of the model is free for users to use. Even if they use my cloud version, it doesn't mean when my next version of model comes out, or when I integrate other people's better models as I mentioned earlier, I'll still keep it free forever. It's just the top of the funnel, getting more people involved, getting interested in this thing, ultimately forming paid conversion. That's the business model.
So my understanding is the model is free and open source and can be deployed locally. And Ace Music is a front-end interface or application that can call and organize various open source music models. And as Ace Music becomes an independent commercial product, its commercialization and business model will continue to evolve as your model's competitiveness and maturity improve.
Right? It should be said it will improve Ace Music's competitiveness as our own model's competitiveness improves and as more and better music models appear in the world. We're using all models combined to build this open ecosystem AI music platform, not just using our single model. This generates a lot of interesting value. For example, we can collect user feedback on every model for every task. What's good? What's bad? We can form arena-style statistics for different models, like community play counts. user creation frequency for these arena overall statistics. We see today that Open Router's biggest competitiveness actually comes from this, because it can have a unified user LLM API interface. So after forming a unified input-output paradigm, it can do unified data and unified statistics. The value of this data itself is also very large.
You just open sourced a brand new music generation model. Can you talk about this model's performance and characteristics? How does it compare with Suno's latest model?
First, it's very close to Suno's latest model's effects. I wouldn't dare say surpassed, because evaluation is also a relatively complex thing, but at least it's not worse. Then it has another very important characteristic. It's extremely fast and extremely small. First, it can be deployed on very ordinary graphics cards. Second, if you deploy it on the cloud on a good graphics card like A100, it can generate a complete song in under 2 seconds. This lets us do many interesting things like Suno or any AI music product. They come up and generate 2 songs at once. But today we can do this. I can let you generate 10 songs at once, and at the same time I have a reward model that can score and rank these 10 songs, and I directly recommend to you which one we think is best among these 10 songs. In this process, we can do many things Suno can't do, including clip editing because it's fast enough so you can take a generated song or any song, put it on AI music, select one region, then keep clicking to let it regenerate until you draw a result you want.
Do you think open source music models can eventually catch up to closed source?
I think definitely, because we think about it this way. First, from historical patterns, even open source language models today have a trend of catching up to closed source. Language models are already a very concentrated, very resource-intensive type of work, but this has already happened. Music models are actually not that resource-intensive. For example, you might need hundreds of H100 cards, or 200 or 300 H100 cards. That's of course not a small amount of money, but this is something our stage of startup can afford. More is actually in algorithm innovation, in data cleaning innovation, in reinforcement learning innovation. So it's a typical area where a small company can surpass companies with more resources. The second point is that music is a thing without a standard answer. For example, like AlphaGo or today's world model-based autonomous driving. When you set up that world model environment and have a verifiable reward, the model can evolve crazily and autonomously in that virtual environment. Its scale-up ability becomes extremely fast. Those with extremely strong capabilities might leave competitors very far behind. But content creation doesn't have a verifiable reward. There's no God telling you, this song is definitely good, that song is definitely bad. Because even in different people's ears, the definition of good and bad is different. So content creation models might become less centralized, more diverse. Each model, even each capability of a model, might record your different demands. For example, if you like this style, maybe this model is better at that style. And that model, because it can be locally trained, it's more that you trained a lot of your own, say, personalized LoRa's. When you use that LoRa model, it can understand better the style you want. This isn't a higher, faster, stronger thing. For example, if you make a song today, is it necessarily better if your arrangement is very complex and instruments are very ornate? So everyone's demands, everyone's understanding of personality, their understanding of aesthetics are different. It's hard to achieve a unified model that does all these things and contains all the personalities everyone wants. I think that's very unlikely.
So my understanding is Suno as a leading music model company has certain barriers, but for a startup like ours focused in the AI field, we also have very fast acceleration and ability to train a sufficiently good model. And because music models have very distinctive creative and artistic preferences and aesthetics, so even if our model still has a gap with Suno's latest model in scale and complexity, from user perception and user usage, our gap will gradually shrink.
Right. First, in the short term, it will gradually shrink, but in the long run, I think this thing isn't even an important issue anymore. But rather, how many capability models can you build that satisfy users' long-tail personalized needs? For example, like Chinese rock style from 94 Hong Kong Coliseum, Dou Wei, Zhang Chu, Tang Dynasty band feeling. Can you generate that with AI today? You can't. What you generate might be too perfect and unified. A model, no matter how fancy it gets, it will ultimately fit a distribution. The things in that distribution still have a certain consistency, but the distribution of things humans like is extremely diverse. I was scrolling Instagram recently. There's a very viral singer on Instagram who went on America's Got Talent. What's his music like? It's very mechanical, very hip-hop beat, like boom, 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 boom. Then he just talks lyrics like I love you. It's just like talking. Then you imagine him performing on a stage like America's Got Talent or The Voice. It's very awkward. He just stands there talking. He's not doing a very passionate rap. But on Instagram, he has millions of followers. And his content sells very well on Spotify. This is typical personalized content. Today, you let any AI music model generate it without going into specific niche circles. It's very, very hard to generate. So we want to build massive LoRa's on our base model. where everyone can bring in their own personality. In the long run, I think AI-empowered music will definitely head in this direction. It's personalized, not everyone uniformly listening to those very flashy things generated by Suno.
So we've talked about so much ACE music. What do you think is the most important competitive factor for AI music in the long run?
I think it's some form of user IP or user personalized assets. For example, vocals. We've listened to so many songs, we can ask ordinary people around us, right? The music you like most, why do you like it? Probably 90% of people focus on vocals in the music. That the singer's performance thing builds the music's consistent personality or style or user's perception of it. Today's AI music is still in a relatively early form. Everyone is still generating music that's relatively high quality in universal mass market sense. But how do you preserve the personalized assets in this music? For example, how do you preserve their voice, their vocal, so you can continuously create things with unified vocals, unified singing style, unified musical style, or same personality content that lets you build long-term IP and fan loyalty on the internet? I think this in the long run is definitely the most important competitive factor.
So we've talked about so much ACE Studio and ACE Music. Now let's chat about why you chose LA rather than Silicon Valley.
First, the big direction is our market is in the US or Europe, so we definitely need to be closer to our market. When we were choosing between Bay Area and Los Angeles, it was basically, do you get closer to capital or closer to users? For us, we felt being closer to users was more essential. After we moved here, LA is our home. It's also our office. And this place is actually the global center of music production. The Grammys are here, and LA's music production center is where we're located. The name is Studio City. Massive numbers of studios, both film and music, are all in this place.
I see Universal Studio is just a few miles from here.
Right, Universal, Netflix, Disney are all nearby, and massive numbers of famous musicians' recording studios. Today in this area, there's a massive creator ecosystem. After we moved here, in this house we receive our users. We've hosted Grammy winners over 10 times already. They come over, sit down, have a drink and chat. We show them our new features, we ask about their usage experience. Everyone gets very close.
Did you have this feeling before in China? That is, you were developing this product in China, and although your users were all European and American users, your physical bodies weren't here in LA. Today, this change for your users is what kind of feeling? You appearing here, do they find it surprising?
Right, they feel it's not surprising anymore, but they definitely feel we're a more solid company now, more trustworthy.
So as a Chinese teen that grew up in China or started in China, in this new environment of the US, looking at the past year's progress, do you have confidence to become the leading AI music company in the global market?
I think I have confidence. The core confidence is confidence in Chinese DNA, that we can be both pragmatic and resilient, hardworking and very ambitious. All Chinese entrepreneurs face stage challenges, but history has proven countless times that as long as Chinese people want to go somewhere, these challenges can all be overcome. Our nation is very resilient.
If you look back at your experience doing ACE Studio and music over the past 2 years, if you went back to yourself 2 years ago, what advice would you give to your past self or to people wanting to do the same thing?
I think first go global as soon as possible. Second, get together with the world's best, most cutting-edge people as soon as possible. The faster, the closer you can be to your users, to these leading companies in your technology.
Okay, let's chat about another topic here. I've known Joe for almost 7 years, from the angel round in 2019 when they started doing ACE Virtual Diva. I've seen you go through a lot over these years. The company has also gone through ups and downs and various changes. Sometimes I think what keeps you doing this thing? What drove your 7 years of effort?
I think it's just a mental picture. This mental picture I actually saw from day one. Music shouldn't be a very high-level form monopolized by a few people, but should be a way for everyone to express themselves. This has been true since ancient times. For example, primitive people invented music before they invented language. Creating music is essentially just a way of expressing your own emotions. This is an instinct rooted in human genes. So what made music creation become a niche, high-end, or even high-barrier thing? I don't think it's music itself. It's that the form of technology development reached music production. The software and hardware ecosystem built on the foundation of digital signal processing. This forced creators, if you want to create music, if you want to express yourself, first learn music production techniques for years, music theory and all that stuff. That mental picture for me has been very clear since 2019. If we could invent a completely new way that lets ordinary people put their emotions into it and create music that others can also appreciate and consume, this thing would thoroughly change things. It's the right thing. This mental picture, this sentence has always been in my heart, never changed. It's just that we definitely made many mistakes in strategy before, in product definition, in timing. That caused us not to become Suno. But today I think AI music has just started. This huge market has just been validated as feasible. Today we join the competition again. With our accumulation, our know-how, our technology, our product ecosystem, I think there's also huge opportunity.
In these 7 years of startup experience, what were the particularly painful or darkest moments that had a direct impact and change on your achievements today?
At the end of 2021, actually early 2022, we completed a funding round. We had some money in the bank. At the beginning of 2022, the whole AIGC momentum hadn't risen yet. The technological variable wasn't yet systematically visible. At that time, we thought for a while we weren't focused enough. For example, we also did agent projects. We did voice and speech generation or voice companionship. Then thinking back after the fact, all these other decisions we made were essentially avoiding the AI music question. Is it possible to use AI to truly create consumable music? From our work until 2022, we had started to self-doubt a bit because we kept working at it and never got it out. That time was actually when this thing started to work. In 2022, Suno's first version was released. We of course were paying close attention, but in that process, because we were pulled in too many directions, we were stuck in a relatively domestic, somewhat frog in the well state where our technical vision wasn't rich enough. We misjudged both Suno's training cost and the potential of this thing. We watched it go from unknown, slowly bit by bit breaking through, finally becoming what it is today. Then we actually didn't start reacting until 2024 that we needed to catch up on this model. We started training our own music large model. In early 2025, we did our first open source. That model was SOTA in the open source field at the time, but there was still a huge gap with Suno's best model. Then getting to today, early 2026, our second version open source model reaches very close to Suno level. In this whole process, that time for me was extremely painful. I saw my company had several projects going simultaneously, but I couldn't put 100% energy into amplifying any single one. At the same time, I asked myself in reverse, what do I actually believe? What's my conviction? Why am I doing these things today? Then I found it was actually a kind of fear or avoidance. Actually, in early 2024, me and my two other partners, we were going to the US for the first time to participate in a music expo. On that plane, we discussed it for over 10 hours without sleeping, and we reached a conclusion that we should cut all these projects and only go all in AI music. That conversation was very important to us and also a very difficult decision. But after that decision was made, honestly, starting mid-2024, we entered a growth trajectory. This was my biggest growth personally. Because we started too early, for a long time, no technological variable, for a long time couldn't make any traction no matter what methods we tried. But you start looking for ways out from other paths, other directions. But in the process of looking, you find actually you just didn't wait for that technological variable, while others saw that technological variable and they took your vision, your dream, your vision and executed it to a world-class level right in front of you. I think that pain was pretty big.
I can really imagine that feeling. Sometimes the rhythm of technological development isn't decided by the entrepreneur's own will, so waiting for or encountering the right technological variable or paradigm shift is very critical. The appearance of that critical point is especially important. Can you talk about why you think the new AI music paradigm represented by Suno suddenly became feasible at this point in time?
Right, I think this is definitely also a gradual process. Starting from 2022, generative AI advanced by leaps and bounds. Every year, we see technological development exceeding people's expectations at that time. For example, very quickly, AI video. 3 years ago, Will Smith eating noodles was still like that. But very quickly today, like Sora-generated video is in a completely indistinguishable from real state. So in general, today's technology is starting to gradually take shape. At least in content production, we can gradually see that in any field, we see massive productization opportunities. And the music is usually the last plate every field, every company wants to touch. Why? Maybe because music is relatively deeper, fewer people understand it, and building good business models on it. In the internet era, the opportunities might not be as good as video. But today we discover from the technological lineage, music is theoretically the easiest to use AI to directly reach end-user consumability. Today, Suno-generated songs, AI-generated songs, on streaming, on the internet, on self-media, have massive crazy spread. All this evidence is ironclad telling you the time has come.
What are the core factors that give us confidence to build models with quality comparable to Suno?
The first is head-to-head competition, hard innovation on algorithms, innovation in these data cleaning pipelines. We believe in catching up to Suno probably just about 10 months. But I think more importantly, the most important value of music models is actually not quality. Because quality to a certain ceiling, human ears can't tell the difference. The most important value of music models is diversity, is blooming, is different personalizations, is user personalization, being able to bring your own personality into it. So I think in the long run, we're building an open AI music platform that should use all kinds of models to emerge personalized, high-quality content that meets everyone's long-tail needs. This is something I think Suno can't do today.
So in 2026, what are the most important things for ACE?
I think the most important thing is that we fully integrate Ace Music and Ace Studio's ecosystem into a unified open AI music production platform to truly form the product we talked about earlier, where everyone can create their own personalized music. Not just everyone creating unified, nice sounding but flashy but personality-free music. This is what I think is the most important point. There are many means to this, for example, using agents to create music, using agents to help you plan your music creation ideas, to every link, what model to use in different links for combination. For example, model autonomous training. Everyone can fine-tune their own model, host their own model, even share their own model. For example, turning music into multimodal. We think future music will definitely be video. Music is also video. Or each piece of music should have a corresponding video. And we think for videos that already exist, giving them reasonable music is also a problem that hasn't been solved yet. So music's multimodalization, from video dubbing music to music dubbing video, these are all points we value very much.
If ACE succeeds, what will the industry look like in 10 years? What will we look like?
First, I think AI will thoroughly change the music industry, or music's every aspect of the world. How is music consumed? How is it produced? How does it interact with people in offline scenarios? How do you interact with your idol? How do you socialize? All these aspects will be completely reconstructed by AI. If ACE has the fortune to become the most important ecosystem in this, that it takes over or is responsible for music's generation, distribution, consumption, even offline performance, then it will be infrastructure worth at least hundreds of billions of dollars.
Today we chatted for over an hour, from ACE Studio 2.0 product to ACE Music to the future vision for AI music. My biggest feeling is that the AI music market is evolving too fast. Technology and products are both rapidly evolving. Who can establish true ecosystem barriers in the next 12 to 18 months will have the opportunity to define this industry's future pattern. Let's look forward to ACE development in 2026. Thank you, Joe, for the wonderful sharing. That's all for this episode of The Alphaist about AI music. See you next time.